welcome to this explainer. All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to use your imagination for a second. Close your eyes, and boom, you are suddenly in the Middle Ages. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're picturing these towering, majestic castles, shining armor, and, these massive, glorious feasts. But hold on, because we're about to look at the cold, hard, and literally filthy reality of what life was actually like back then. So, do you really think you'd be medieval royalty if we just teleported you back in time? Look, I hate to completely shatter your romantic expectations here, but mathematically speaking, you are absolutely 100% a peasant. Your grand castle? Yeah, it's just a single room. That's the whole thing. Just one dirt-floored room that has to serve as your bedroom, your kitchen, your living room, your storage space, and an emergency farm. Seriously, the chickens, the goats, maybe a pig, they are all sleeping inside with you just to keep warm. And that dirt floor? Every single time someone takes a step, dust floats up into the air, and you're just breathing that in all day long. Oh, and the windows? No glass, just wooden shutters that let in the freezing cold, swarms of flies, and at night, they just let out whatever tiny bit of precious heat you actually managed to trap.
I mean, the stark contrast in how we define a roommate today versus back then is honestly horrifying. Today, a bad roommate is what? A friend who leaves unwashed dishes in the sink? But back then, privacy simply was not a concept. You don't get a mattress. Well, actually, you get a cloth bag stuffed with straw. And living inside that straw are lice and fleas. They're basically your permanent non-rent-paying roommates. But it's not just the bugs. Your entire family is sleeping in this one room. We're talking parents, siblings, kids, that goat we just mentioned, and yes, even that one weird uncle who showed up 2 years ago for a few days and somehow just never left.
And the mornings? Wow. Before you even open your eyes, all you hear is coughing. People in this era coughed way more than they breathed. Why? Because almost all peasant houses had an open fire burning right there inside that unventilated room. There's no chimney, so the smoke just sits there, trapped. Day after day, year after year, you're just inhaling it. And then there is the smell. You wake up to this inescapable, choking mixture of wet dog, sweaty armpit, rotten milk, and burned wood. And remember, this is before anyone has even started working for the day.
Okay, so you wake up smelling terrible. Your back is aching from the floor, but hey, you're hungry. Good news, breakfast is served. Bad news, it's pottage. Now, pottage isn't just some harmless morning oatmeal. Imagine a stew that has literally been boiling since your great-great-grandfather was alive. I'm not kidding. They never throw it out. They just keep adding to it. Grains, roots, some random vegetables, maybe a bean, maybe a literal pebble that just fell in from the roof. This stew is older than most of the people sitting in the room. And how are you eating this ancient daily sludge? With a wooden spoon carved from a stick shaped with the exact same knife someone used yesterday to, castrate a goat. Because hygiene? Yeah, that hasn't been invented yet.
Oh, and alongside your ancient stew, you get a lovely piece of bread. But do not picture a soft, warm, bakery-fresh loaf here. No way. This bread is a literal medieval weapon. You could crack someone's skull with it. It is harder than your will to live. See, it was made of super cheap flour mixed with totally random fillers just to stretch the batch out. We're talking things like sawdust, tree bark, or powdered grass. The only way your teeth stand a chance of getting through it is if you soak it in your multi-generational pottage just to soften it up a bit.
But honestly, chewing on tree bark is actually the least of your worries. Sometimes, the flour itself was actively trying to kill you. Medieval rye was frequently infected with this fungus called ergot. If you are unlucky enough to eat a batch of ergot-infected rye bread, you aren't just getting a bad meal. You were risking intense hallucinations, gangrene, and in extreme cases, just sudden death. So your daily breakfast was essentially a very dangerous game of hallucinogenic roulette.
Right, so to wash down that dangerous sawdust bread, you definitely need a drink. But you are absolutely not drinking water. Oh no. Untreated river and well water back then was packed with parasites, animal waste, and whatever the town upstream decided to dump into it. Drinking that would kill you faster than a sword. Instead, everyone drinks beer. Yes, first thing in the morning, even the little kids. It was known as small beer, which was a very weak, low-alcohol brew. The critical thing to understand here is that the brewing process involved boiling the liquid. They didn't know it, but that boiling killed off most of the deadly bacteria, making it literally the only safe thing you and your kids could consume.
So you've choked down your pottage, survived your bark bread, and chugged your morning beer. But about 20 minutes later, your stomach decides to start a violent revolution. This deep, twisting pain hits you, and you realize something in that ancient stew was definitely not meant for human consumption. You need a bathroom, immediately. But your options are grim. Option 1, the family bucket, sitting right there in the middle of your one-room house. Everyone is watching, and frankly, maybe the goat has used it once or twice. Or option 2, you go outside to the street. Let's say you choose the street. The second you step outside, the air just hits you like a physical wall. It smells like a swamp mixed with death. And if you look up, you might hear someone yell, "Gardez-vous," which, by the way, comes from French, basically meaning, watch out for the water. But trust me on this, it is not water. People simply opened their windows and poured all their waste straight down into the road. The result is this bubbling brown river in the street made of human waste, animal dung, rotting food, dead rats, and rainwater. It all just blends into this horrifying sludge, and kids are playing next to it, stray dogs are eating from it, and worst of all, it flows downhill directly into the river that some desperate people still try to drink from.
And that brings us to a truly staggering number: 500 years. Think about that. Because of this horrific street sludge contaminating the water, medieval cities were literal death traps. Dysentery, typhoid, and all these waterborne diseases were so incredibly common that people thought being violently ill all the time was just a normal part of life. In crowded towns, the average person just lived with intestinal parasites their entire life. This extremely efficient, albeit disgusting, system of spreading disease killed tens of millions of people across Europe, and humanity would spend another 5 centuries dying from it before anyone finally connected the contaminated water to the massive death tolls.
But anyway, back to your stomachache. It is definitely not getting better. You need a doctor. Unfortunately, real, trained doctors only work for kings and bishops. So who do you get? You get the village multitasker. This is the local guy who cuts hair, sharpens knives, pulls teeth, drains blood, and probably brews his own beer in the exact same unwashed bucket he uses for amputations. He does not wear gloves. He definitely doesn't wash his hands. I mean, soap existed, but it was crazy expensive, and he's saving it for a special occasion that is honestly never going to come.
So you walk into a shop clutching your stomach, and boom, he instantly knows the diagnosis without even asking you a single question. Your humors are unbalanced. This was the absolute pinnacle of medieval medical science. They genuinely believed your body was filled with these 4 magical fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Whenever one of these magically got out of whack, you got sick. And the doctor's solution to literally everything was incredibly, terrifyingly simple.
He decides he just needs to drain you like a water barrel. He ties a filthy rag around your arm, grabs this rusty blade that looks suspiciously like a butter knife, and just opens a vein to let the bad blood out. So, you walked in already dehydrated from your stomach bug, and now you are walking out with up to 50% of your blood volume totally gone. Your chances of just passing out face first into the street mud on your way home? Yeah, they're massive.
Now, if the bloodletting doesn't magically cure you, and shocker, it never does, the doctor has some pretty grim follow-up treatments ready to go. He might ask for a sample of your urine, but not to run lab tests on it, no, literally just to stare at it and guess what's wrong based purely on the color and the smell. Or even worse, he reaches for a jar of squirming leeches that he keeps in what used to be someone's dirty bathwater. He just slaps a few of them right on your skin and waits for them to gorge on your blood until they literally fall off. Okay, so things are getting bad. Because if the cutting, the bleeding, and the bathwater leeches don't cure you, the village is going to start whispering. The logic was, if medicine hasn't worked, you've either deeply angered God or you've been cursed by a witch. And in the Middle Ages, just hearing the word witch was a death sentence. Paranoia completely ruled everyday life. If a neighbor's cow dropped dead, or a harvest was bad, or honestly, if you just looked a little too confident while boiling your soup, you could easily be accused. They drag you to the town square and ask the ultimate question: are you a witch? It is a terrifying, totally lose-lose situation. If you say no, they reply, well, that's exactly what a witch would say to hide it. If you say yes, you've just scheduled your own execution.
Which leads us perfectly into the ultimate, inescapable, dark logic of the era: the trial by ordeal. First step, they tie you up and throw you into a river just to let God sort it out. But step 3 is where the logic just completely falls apart. See, if you sink, congratulations, the water accepted you and you are declared innocent. Except you just drowned. If you float, well, that means the pure water rejected your dark magic, so you are guilty, and they pull you out just to execute you anyway. Survival simply wasn't actually an option on the menu. As you can see, critical thinking and logic weren't exactly humanity's strong points back then.
So, incredibly, less than 24 hours into your medieval adventure, everything has completely fallen apart. But here is the absolute craziest part of all of this. This wasn't rare.
This wasn't just a bad day. This was totally normal. Your ancestors lived exactly like this. They endured the multi-generational pottage, the parasites, the horrific doctors, and the absolute chaos for years, sometimes for decades. And they somehow managed to survive all of that misery long enough for you to be sitting here right now. So the next time you feel a bit frustrated because your Wi-Fi is buffering or your coffee is too cold, maybe ask yourself, could you have survived a single day in their shoes? We should probably all thank our medieval ancestors, because every modern comfort we enjoy today is built on a life of unimaginable misery that they had to endure. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope you enjoyed it, and keep it in mind next time you complain about taking out the trash.